Hey, this is Zander Schloss of the Circle Jerks, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dogbowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. And tonight's guest is
Zander Schloss, a punk rock legend.
Yeah, of the Circle Jerks. They just returned home from a 6-week tour. He's also promoting his 2 solo albums. What are they called, Jeff?
California is Burning and Song About Songs.
Yeah, hey, let's get to the interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Zander, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Hey, Zander, this is Jeff. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Jeff. Hi, Eric. How are you guys? Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. So let's get right into this. It's like you just returned from a 6-week tour with the Circle Jerks, with your last show being at Riot Fest in Chicago. Can you talk a little bit more about the tour as a whole? And do you feel as though that the fans are back in full force in this post-pandemic now?
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to get in the results of other people, but when I look out there, I see a lot of young people in the audiences, and I go out and go out to the merch stand and talk to people, and mainly kids. They're of course, a lot of them have seen a patch on their dad's jacket, or at this point, grandfather's jacket, and the overall thing that I'm hearing is the renewed interest in Circle Jerks from young people is that they want to hear something real. I mean, the world is so full of things that we have to figure out is it true or is it not true.
Yes.
There's something, to be said for the authenticity of a band that's been around for 40 plus years. Mm-hmm. They know that what they're going to get it's authentic, it's true, and I think it's people are just looking for something real. Mainly young people are looking for something real.
Absolutely. Well, with Riot Fest being what it is, and it's I guess maybe a fantastic way to end a tour. Can you talk a little bit more about your performance at Riot Fest and just I guess about the whole experience?
Well. I'm generally a set them up, knock them down, and move to the next town. I'm no longer on the hero's journey, so it's just like I'm like on my, at that point after 6 weeks on the road, you're sort of, you're on your odyssey where you've been, sort of on this adventure and stuff. You're just looking for home. We got up on stage and we started playing. a lot of people shifted over to our stage. It wasn't a main stage; it was a side stage, and so I was happy to see that. But about 10 minutes into our set, Offspring started to play, and on the main stage. And I don't know if it's my imagination, but it seemed that the PA was turned up about 20% louder than the previous band, which I think was Sum 41. And I could literally hear them the whole time that I was playing. And if you know the Circle Jerks music, we're playing 200 BPM per song, 32 songs in the course of a very, very short amount of time. It takes quite a bit of concentration to play accurately at those speeds with the drummer. So I literally had to have an eye line with Joey Castillo in order to get through it. But yeah, that was my experience, that it was actually more challenging as a result of the fact that they had bands playing simultaneously, which I don't think was the best idea. And I'm not trying to talk shit about Riot Fest or your hometown, but maybe think about that just a little bit.
Understandable.
So how many shows is the Circle Jerks playing each year?
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's a good question, and I can look on my Master Tour app, but just knocked out about, I'd say, 22, 25 shows.
Nice.
Including a lot of shows with no effects and on the Punk and Drublic tour, some of those being in Canada and some of those being in the States. And, of course, we've logged a lot of dates with Incendus. We also just got back previously, probably we'd been home about, a month from doing Punk and Drublic in Europe. So, and before that, I think we were doing some more Punk and Drublic with no effects and co-headlining with the Descendants in the States. So I'd say just in the last 4 or 5 months, we probably logged about 75 to 90 gigs.
Oh, very good.
Oh yeah. And then what's the band's approach to besides just playing live? I know a lot of bands now are doing meet and greets and behind the scenes and different things, add-on packages and stuff like that. Well, how does it work for your band?
Well, we don't do any of those meet and greets. I meet and greet because I'm out there trying to hawk my solo record.
Yeah.
But some of the other members are in the backstage. They're not so meet and greedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at any rate, I've always found it. One of the great things about going on tour is connecting with the audience. Granted, we do that when we play, and it's an energy exchange. But I actually like having a rapport with the audience, and I like connecting to the cities and places that I go and people. As far as extra stuff that we're doing, we did a split 7-inch with the Descendants, whereby we're playing a few Descendants songs and they're playing a few Circle Jerk songs. And we've been cross-marketing some of our merch and, like I said, cross-marketing our music to create this 7-inch. It's been selling like hotcakes.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about this portion of your career with the Circle Jerks and the rest of the band members. When it comes to planning a touring schematics in duration, what is you and the rest of the band's comfort zone as far as duration of a tour? It was 6 weeks pushing it, or do you guys we talk to a lot of artists that say, hey, 1 month, that's about good for us, and then we need to come home. But for you and Keith and the rest of the band, where is your mindset when it comes to a duration of touring?
I think we could say the same as some of these other bands. You know what I mean? 1 month, and we're ready to come home. The funny thing is, the music gets better, but it can be wearing, like being on the submarine with your platoon or your battalion of soldiers or whatever. It's close quarters, and I don't know if you've had a relationship with anybody other than your parents for over 40 years, but I will say, when you've been doing something or having a relationship or tied closely to somebody else for over 40 years, it can be challenging sometimes, all the idiosyncrasies and blah, blah, blah. So we're better friends than we've ever been. That being said, after about 4 weeks, it starts to get a little challenging.
Oh, very good. Let's get right into your solo work. In 2023, you released your second solo album, California is Burning. Can you give us an insight to the songwriting and recording to that latest endeavor of yours?
Yeah, I will say, people ask me what the genre of that is, that music is, and it's hard to say. I guess one conservatively would say singer-songwriter, but I generally say that I write lullabies for broken adults, and you know what I mean. If anybody wants to uncross their arms and stop acting like a tough guy, take a listen to this music. It is the antithesis of punk rock.
Right.
So, is that the correct word? The opposite?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it is the polar opposite of punk rock, as punk rock produces a physical mosh pit with its aggressiveness, loudness, and anger and speed. This creates an internal mosh pit with its gentleness, and it's this is going to sound so. I don't know. I dare you to call me a pussy. I don't I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm still who I am.
Right.
But at any rate, you start getting a little bit older. I just think that toughness is something that's really, on a topical level, we could talk about some tough guys that are like not doing the world a great service. And so in the lies and the convolution of our times and, fabricating stories and stuff. I think for me, this is an exercise in telling the truth and transparency and showing the world. It's a little bit more courageous to say, "Hey, here's my fears." Nobody says this shit out loud, and so this punk rock is a daredevil as far as lifestyle of like, oh wow, we see these guys, out there doing this thing. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Well, it's the same kind of thing with my solo stuff. I'm saying some things that people think in their darkest moments, but they would pretty much never say out loud. And I'm playing this music that is so languid and so beautiful and like, sophisticatedly, arranged and gentle, that it dares people to either love it or hate it, And I want people to say, what the hell happened to Zander?
Well, it's always it's always amazing when a band member or a band tries to do something completely different and out of the box. That some fans can't stand it and some fans love it, but I think it's great.
I would say it's more punk rock to do that than it is to branch off as a solo artist and play punk rock.
Yeah.
Very good.
Because that's what punk rock is. It dares you to love it or hate it. It brings discourse, brings either social or emotional discourse, and kind of dares you to love it or hate it.
Well, 100 Years is my favorite track on California's Burning. I love how the song begins in that orchestral vibe. Can you talk a little bit more about the recording of that track and even the writing of it as well?
Well, I wrote this sweepingly romantic song to a girlfriend while I was on tour in Europe with, I think I was touring with Mark Lanigan.
Mm-hmm.
And at any rate, I wanted to, it was so powerful that she didn't like it, actually. But at any rate, I'm kind of like, in the stuff that I do solo, I do a lot of finger picking 12 string, a la Bert Jansch and Nick Drake and some of the Irish English folk people play an Irish bouzouki, which is tuned in its traditional tuning. And, it was my goal to go back a little bit further than, Bob Dylan and Neil Young and Woody Guthrie, and those people that are strictly Americana, because the folk music, hillbilly music came from England, Ireland, and Scotland. And I wanted to do something really, really timeless. And that's where it gets that kind of medieval modal sort of sound. At any rate, the orchestral thing, I've been, wanting to get an orchestrator involved in writing some very emotional string sections, because I've always loved that, like on some of Beck's album, like Sea Change, or say, Nick Drake, or even Jimmy Page, who was a fan of some of those people. You'd hear these beautifully orchestrated, emotional, sweeping strings, and I couldn't find an orchestrator to do it. And I thought to myself at one point, you know what? I'll do it myself, because who knows the emotion of this stuff in the depth that I do. And I went against the record company, and I went against my manager in doing it. They had no idea I was doing it. And they told me, they said, you just took the wheel and now you're steering off course. And I said, no. I said, I just didn't want to ask the record company for any money. I put my own money into it. I did it myself. I said, I just didn't want to tell you guys that I'm trying to make Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Because, you wouldn't have backed it up. You would have said, let's, get the record finished. Let's get it in the can for under budget and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is something I've always wanted to do, like an orchestrated sort of Baroque pop, very, very 60s, 70s tinge sort of album. And so I wrote these flute beds, and I wrote these clarinet beds and quartets, and put them on the album without my management or my record company knowing it. And then I turned it in, and they're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I want to know more about Alan Johannes's contribution to the album. I think he helps produce, and then he does some singing harmony and other, joins some other musical talent to it also.
Well, Alan Johannes is somebody that I've known from his band 11 locally, and he is one of the most masterful multi-instrumentalists, fantastic songwriters, whether it be helping out with Queens of the Stone Age or Chris Cornell or PJ Harvey, Them Crooked Vultures, or producing a good portion of Mark Lanigan's solo albums, which my former duo, Sean and Zander, toured quite a bit with Mark. And I actually got the opportunity to play in Mark's band for a tour due to a sickness at his bassist experience. I filled in for him for the rest of the tour. But at any rate, I really, really admired Alan's production style. I really admired Alan's multi-instrumentalist genius. He's basically rock and roll's best kept secret.
Yeah.
He literally is as prodigious as somebody like a Jimmy Page or somebody of that note. And he's also has a lot of the same influences that I have. He's into that kind of medieval modal stuff. And I could hear it in his playing. He would be a perfect fit, not only as a producer, but as an instrumentalist. And I was surprised to see Alan really getting out of the way and contributing things that were not necessarily pulling away from the focus of the song or the main guitar parts. He did such supportive work on the album, and the background vocals and the incredible production. But I've always wanted to work with Alan, and it only took me something like 40 years to get up the nerve to ask him to do it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, when people hear your name, you're synonymous with punk rock. You just can't get away from that. But, in this part of your career, where's the self-satisfaction for you, I guess creative satisfaction? Is it still in your punk roots, or is this folky Americana stuff that you're doing now, is it more your passion, or I guess where are you at in your career?
I'll tell you where I'm at is I'm doing whatever it is that I want to do, because, at the end of the day, I mean, what is life? It's like, find out what you want to do, try to be productive doing that, and call it a life. Get what you can get done. And I thought it would be time for me to express myself as a solo artist. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer for an artist to find a voice as a writer. And I've been writing songs with various, collaborating on songs with various people all my life. Yeah. But at the point that my duo with Sean Wheeler broke up, he'd been writing lyrics, I've been writing music. I thought that it would be a good time for me to express myself as a solo artist. I'm not getting any younger. So, some people will say, yeah, you should write a book or something like that. And this is kind of like me introducing you to myself finally, because everything that I think about, every thought that I express in the lyrics are true. At least true to me. And I've got a rule. It's like if it's not true, it's not necessary. So anything that are in these songs, if you listen to them, you're really getting an insight into my inner landscape. And punk rock, it's easy to hide behind all the volume and the speed and the aggression of punk rock. It's a very topical, and I'm not giving it shit. I really enjoy it, but it's just the top surface of what's really going on inside. It's a great way for people to blow off steam, including myself, but it doesn't get to those root emotions,
Very good.
It's like I really, really enjoy playing with the Circle Jerks, and our job is to compact energy and shoot it out like a laser beam, and in turn people start going crazy and moshing and losing their minds, and that just fuels us. And it's like a fucking dumpster fire. It's like a bonfire out of control. Yeah, California's Burning, of course, is not about the bonfires in California. And I'm not even going to say what it's about because I want people to draw their own conclusions.
Right.
But you're asking me what I like better. I like both things equally. It's like I like to be in the moment doing whatever it is that I'm doing and put my full concentration into that, whatever it may be.
We had Alex Skolnick of Testament on a couple months ago, and he's pretty much gone to the jazz world side of things, and he even spoke candidly about how his passion is jazz music in his creativity. I guess when it comes to passion, is punk rock still as much of a passion to you as doing your folk Americana stuff?
Well, honestly, it's like, it's more of a job because I'm working, and I get paid to play punk rock. So if you're looking at something as a job or a passion, I don't necessarily get paid to do the music that I do as a solo artist. And as Circle Jerks may get 5,000 people going nuts, I'll get about 5 people that are kind of like, what the fuck is this,
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well,
So I would say that's more of a passion.
Very good.
Yeah, we kind of focused on California's Burning, but in 2022 you had a song about songs, and with a different producer, and that was your debut solo album. One of my favorite songs on that one was a Dead Friend Letter.
Oh, thank you. Well, funny you should say Dead Friend Letter. That was actually, we recorded that, myself, Gus Seifert, who played bass with Roger Waters, and is his musical director, played bass and produced that. And we tracked it live as a band, not unlike, Bob Dylan when he went down to Nashville. And basically, I had a guy who plays with the Killers, Jake Blanton, playing keyboards, and Josh Adams, who's played with Jenny Lewis, playing the drums, and Gus playing bass, and I'd sing and play. And we recorded it down to 2-inch, I think 16 track. So it's not something you want to try at home unless you have like really, really great musicians who know what the fuck they're doing. And at any rate, Dead Friend Letter, I was actually showing the song to those guys. And granted, I made charts for them because I am also a jazz trained musician. And so at the end of running it down for them, Gus said, "That's it. That's the take." I was like, "Take? That was the rehearsal." So what you're hearing on Dead Friend Letter and all those stops and starts was kind of people figuring it out, and it just somehow worked out magically, so great.
It did.
Well, Old Cliches and Diamond Rings is my favorite track on that album. It's a haunting song of sorts. Can you take us back to the creativity behind that song and the songwriting and recording of it?
Well, I mean, I figured, there's some great mysteries in life that are worth thinking about and pondering and writing about, and that's God, death, and love. We don't know what happens to us after we die. We don't know if there really is a God or not. And what is love? It's something different to everybody else. But yet, there have been so many love songs that have been written throughout time and, filmed, romantic films and blah, blah, blah. So Old Cliches and Diamond Rings is a song that basically confirms that it's still something that is worth writing about. You know what I mean?
Very good.
So you kind of alluded to working with several artists over the years. A couple of my favorites, Scott Weiland, the Magnificent Bastards, and Mike Watt. I know you were on a track for Ball Hug and Tugboat. Can you talk a little bit about those collaborations?
Yeah, I mean, those were just Scott and I. We had a friendship, and we were developing the Magnificent Bastards.
Yeah,
And at a certain point, things were a bit too chaotic with. I was actually trying to be drug free. And we all know, rest in peace, Scott,
yes.
he struggled with that. But at any rate, what 12 Bar Blues was, basically, we had been developing that over the course of a year. And we got a couple songs out on a John Lennon tribute album. We do a cover of How Do You Sleep? And
Yes.
we had one single on the radio called Mockingbird Girl.
Yeah, from Tank Girl.
Yeah, on Tank Girl. So those were specifically for a tribute album and for a film. But yeah, we had been in development of an entire record, and I think that turned out to be 12 Bar Blues after I left.
Oh, man, very cool.
Mike Watt called
Yes.
me in. I think that he had a reverence for my guitar playing. And a lot of people don't even know I'm a guitar player, but I play guitar in several bands and, many records and stuff like that. I've only played bass in the Circle Jerks and the Weirdos. But at any rate, he called me in and he gave me one of the greatest compliments I've ever received in there. He said, I really hate a lot of guitar players. I don't like the way they play, but your playing reminds me of D. Boone. So the beloved D. Boone of the Minutemen. And I play the ramshackle rhythm Telecaster on Fist Bottle Man.
Yeah, with Evan Dando.
Yeah. Very, very Pete Townsend, very early Who.
No, very good. Well, if you could compare and contrast Song About Songs and California's Burning, and you could say, hey, this album was the better interpretation of the two, of where my mindset is at with this genre of music, do you have a preference?
No, I don't. Actually, they both have. I think they're so different in the way they were constructed, and I tried to do what anybody would have tried to do had there been a record company that would, create an environment where they could develop, and that is come in and do something that's very tidy and something that's very simple and conservative over the course of a week. We recorded the tracks for Song About Songs live over the course of 3 days and did overdubs and mixed for 2 days. So that is a very, very quick running. It went from 2-inch tape. We mixed it down on the half-inch tape. I mean, quarter-inch, no, half-inch 2-track. But the reason being is not for the vintage sound. The reason being was to eliminate any options that there might be through running it through the box and having, multiple options to edit or manipulate, pitch or any of that stuff. So I'm literally singing live and playing. Everybody is playing and live. So there's no fix-its on the album. And if we did have to do a fix-it, I think we did one fix-it actually on the beginning of My Dear Blue. And that was with a razor blade. So I think Gus thought that the beginning of the song sounded a little bit too much like Rocky Raccoon. So we shaved off 2 bars of it, and then the song starts quicker, so it doesn't have that sort of but at any rate, that is a very tidy record, and I think the artwork, the constructive, like where you could see you could see sort of like into the process of the charcoal drawing on the cover explains sort of what it is. It's stark. You can hear the process of what's going on. There's no manipulation. And then when I went to do California's Burning, I wanted to do a Baroque pop record. And the artwork also says something about it because it's a vibrant pastel with like bursting with color. So California's Burning sort of bursts out with much longer psychedelic arrangements, lots of instrumental bits, much more. There's actually much more orchestration. It's a more vivid production.
Yeah, very good.
Well, let's talk a little bit about like your promotion with the two albums. I know you use Bandcamp and you have merchandise on there, T-shirts and LPs and CDs and stuff, and the digital format, of course. But can you talk a little bit about your efforts to promote the two albums?
Well, funny you should say that because I'm on a very small label called Blind Owl. You may have spoken to our fearless leader there, Dan Cervantes. But that being said, those guys have not really had proper physical distribution. And so I've been getting records from them and on my tour cycles, walking to independent record stores in every city and every country, or state that I'm in. And as a result, have been to over 100 record stores internationally, everywhere from Canada to Australia to Europe. And now I'm going down to South America in December. So I've physically distributed my album like a Johnny Appleseed, sort of like folk hero all over the world. And, it creates a story about me on social media, blah, blah, blah. Look at him. He's like walking 10 miles to the record store and promoting independent, record stores and, old school, blah, blah, blah. It really doesn't move the dial that much to do it, but it promotes me as a human being, and my efforts are, honest, and kind of like Abraham Lincoln chopping down the cherry tree or whoever the fuck did that.
Very good. Well, you're heading to Spain in October to act in a new Alex Cox Western. Can you give our listeners some details about this new movie endeavor?
Well, Alex is calling it his last film. He's a crafty little badger. I would believe that it may not be his last film, but I think that's a great way to get some crowdfunding. And at any rate, he's doing another Western, which, of course, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex, but the first Western that I did with him was Straight to Hell, where I played a homeless hot dog vendor named Carl the Wiener Man. And I get to sing a song called Salsa y Ketchup, which is beloved to a lot of people, which is actually a co-write with Joe Strummer. A lot of people don't know that, but you can hear it if you listen to the lyrics of it, I'd say something like, well, they're short and they're long, and Joe would say, and they taste quite strong. You know what I mean? Like in his crazy English accent.
Yeah.
He got girls in the Chevys coming in from the levees. He loved the old cars and stuff like that. But at any rate, Alex is making another Western in the same region that we made Straight to Hell, where they made Fistful of Dollars, Once Upon a Time in the West, Good, Bad, the Ugly. All the classic Italian Western films were made in this particular area in Spain. And he asked me to play a wagoneer named Baracho. So I'm not only the town drunk, but I'm also the fearless guide in the movie. So sort of like a shamanistic kind of like guide, but like drunk, like if you look at him, on sort of like just face value, he looks just like a drunk loser. But there's much more to Baracho than that. I don't want to give away the plot points. It's a real Western that takes place in the 1890s. Main character is a guy named Strindler, who is on a mission, and I accompany him on this mission. Part of it's going to be shot in Spain, and then I'm actually going to North Africa, which I've always wanted to do. Right afterwards, me and a friend are driving to Gibraltar and heading over on the ferry to Morocco.
Nice.
Wow.
Just for a little vacation. But at any rate, and then I come back and there's talk about doing new music with the Circle Jerks. And so we go straight into the studio with our friend Tim Armstrong at the helm as a producer. And then we're going to go out to Mexico and South America.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah. Real quick, back to your acting. Let's, you got your start in Repo Man as Kevin and stuff, but how, talk a little bit about that transition from musician to acting.
Well, it wasn't a transition from music to. Look, I was a class clown when I was a kid. I really like part of my personality. Maybe you're getting a little sense of it. Is I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, whoever's watching, whoever's listening, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say or do what I'm going to do. I'm not really. I stay out of the results of what other people think. I'm sort of fearlessly going into the world being me. So when there's a crew of 50 people standing there with cameras and lights and all that stuff, I'm going to do the same in front of them as I would alone in a room. That's, I guess, part of it. So Alex asked me to do Repo Man, and my first scene was the day after my 21st birthday, and I just said yes and figured out how to do it, like on the spot. And I figured, well, I'm prepared. I've been a stage performer, with music and also a class clown, being disruptive in class and blah, 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 attention seeking. So I figured I could do it. And then after that, I, did several films and was able to do it just, a lot on just, I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about acting, but it's like, if you look interesting, you remember your lines, you hit your mark, you make the faces. What more is there to it?
Very good. Well, we're running out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that you would like to plug or promote that we left off tonight?
Let's see. I guess that, I just turned 63, and I'd just like to plug and promote that, dreams do come true. I think that you can do anything at any age and don't give up. Of course, go out and buy my solo record. It takes a village to raise a solo artist. So if you're at all curious about who I am and you don't want to put me in a box and say, hey, Circle Jerks are your potential, we want you to stay there, go check it out and see that it's not about letting other people define what your potential is. It's about you defining it and striving for your potential, never reaching it. Because if you reach it, people just want you to stay there. And it's like, fuck that, dude.
That's good.
Yeah, very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out once we're ready to go. Jeff, the editing guru over here, is going to clean everything up and make us sound like $1 million. Sound good?
Hey, no problem, man. My pleasure. Keep in touch. Let me know when this is going to be airing or whatever, and I'll put it on my socials.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.